Hello and welcome to Friends That Invest. You're joined today by your host Sim. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm wildly passionate about all things investing and personal finance. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about all things money and relationships. More specifically, we're going to be talking about what no one taught me when it came to money and relationships and what happens to your money when love enters the picture. I've got some really interesting stats here. We are going to talk about why money is one of the biggest sources of conflict in relationships, the financial red flags that you need to know before things get too serious, how to have the money conversations that most couples avoid until it's too late, and how to set up your finances together in a way that works, whether you're newly dating, you're moving in together, you've been together for a while, or you've been married for like 10 years and you're like, you know what? I should probably have this conversation with my partner. It's been a little bit of a while and this is something we need to get into. This episode is for every woman that is building her wealth and wants to make sure that love helps and doesn't get in the way. Now, without further ado, this is a statistic that has completely blown my mind. 42% of people are keeping financial secrets from their partners right now. 42%. That is a lot of people. That is almost half the people in relationships that are hiding some kind of spending or debt or accounts. And that's not something they're hiding from like their friends or their family or their colleagues. That is something they're hiding from the person that they're like meant to spend their life with and like want to like have maybe children with. And you can like be so vulnerable physically with a person, but you don't want to talk to them about like your money. That just make it make sense. Now, let me get straight into the facts to share with you some things that have blown my mind. As I've said, 42% of people have financial secrets from their partner, but 30% admit to spending more than their partner would approve of. 23% of people hold secret debt from their partner. 19% have secret savings accounts, which I'm like, you know what, that one I will turn a blind eye to. I don't mind that one. And 18% possess a secret credit card. That is a lot of secrecy in something that's meant to be a relationship where you want to work together and you want to be on the same page. But if you're listening to this and going, well, Sim, what do people get wrong in relationships? And what's some of the reasons why divorce tends to happen when financial incompatibility really starts to balloon out? There's two things that I have noticed. The first is that there are different money habits. And when people's money habits are so different and there's no room for them to grow together, things can become a little bit tricky. You probably have someone in your friend group, or maybe you are that couple where like Sally is really frugal, she saves a lot, she tracks all of her money, and she has a goal to buy a house. And Jason is like, you know what, screw it. Like he's obsessed with, I don't know, Fortnite. That was just the first thing that came to mind. But you know, he's spending his money on things that are in alignment with his goals and like makes him happy, but they're not in alignment with the couple goals. And then Sally starts to wonder like, should I just start saving up to buy a house on my own? Should I just separate my finances? Like, how is this going to work? And if they don't have those harder conversations, not to say they're doomed, but if they don't have those conversations, it makes it really harder to get on the same page. Those are things that are usually easier to fix. Now, the harder parts and the types of relationships where money comes in and it's a bit of a red flag for them is when they have financial infidelity. It is what I mentioned when partners are like, I'm going to hide my money, or I'm not sure about this. Let me do things on my own that my husband or my wife doesn't need to know about. Or if I start this like side business, they don't need to know about the extra income coming in. Or if I have an inheritance coming, they don't need to know about that. That is a lot harder because now we've got deceit. We've got things that can cause a lot of distrust once things come out. And trust me, if I have learned and seen anything, things always come out. The truth always comes out. So the financial infidelity part is like, I don't even know why you do it. But nonetheless, those are the two main reasons. Different money habits and financial infidelity. Those are the main reasons that cause issues in relationships. But that is okay because we're going to talk it out. We're going to run through some steps of things that you can do to make sure you're on the right track, some tips, some advice. And honestly, by the end of this episode, I think you're going to be like, it's okay. We can run through this. This is going to be fine. Unless, of course, they're hiding debt from you. That is not fun. Don't even listen to the end of this episode. Just like figure it out, call them up, end the relationship, move on. That is something I do not appreciate. Now, the first chapter of this episode is understanding that people have different money stories and they come from different backgrounds. So, communicating is the most important thing that you can do in your relationship. Like, you are less likely to feel annoyed at your partner if you appreciate the difference in how they have grown up to how you have grown up. It is very unlikely that you have grown up in the exact same way. And so you, again, might have come from an immigrant background, you have frugal parents, and you've learned to be really frugal. But then also, you might have grown up with a family that had a lot of money and then lost it all. And therefore, you're like extremely frugal and you're always scared. And no matter how much you always have that scarcity mindset. On the other hand, you might have had a partner that also had really frugal parents, but because they always get told, like, no, 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 now they have adult money and they're like, nice, like, I can spend what I want, like, no one can stop me. And so they really are like kind of making up for lost time. And I always say that money and your relationships with money and your partner's relationship with money is very similar to what happens when you look at like eating habits between partners and look at their families' eating habits. Like, I have found that my husband's family, when I go over, their love language is to give you a soda can. Like, you all turn up and they'll be like, ginger beer, Sprite, Coke, what do you want? And I'll be like, just a water. And they'll be like, no. They just love to show care through giving you like something in your hand to drink. And on the flip side, my family is very similar. If you turn up, they will give you something to eat. You have to eat. And if you're not hungry, you have to eat. And so my husband and I, now if someone comes to our house, we're forcing them to have a drink and we're forcing them to eat. We've like combined the best and the worst of both of our upbringings. And money is the exact same. If you come from different backgrounds, which of course you will, you didn't grow up in the same household, that would be kind of weird, then you're going to just view money differently. So it's so important, I always say, to like just understand where they're coming from and talk to them. Be like, hey, what was money like growing up? Was money tight or was it like loosely kind of given out? And how does that affect you today? And explain to them where you're coming from. So the next time you do something that maybe they don't like, they're like, you know what? It's because of how she grew up, or it's because of how he grew up. And therefore, you're not like angry at each other, you're just coming from a place of understanding. I have two friends where one of them has grown up with a lot of financial up and down in her life. And so while she has a very stable job and makes good money, she's still very scared to spend it and doesn't want to splurge on things. And if she met someone that came into her life, they'd be like, you make all this money, like, why won't you just spend it? Like, you're just so tightly wound. But if they heard like her family had this business and then it all fell apart and then, she's now in charge of looking after them, they would understand exactly where she's coming from. Now, the next part of this episode is doing the thing that is really, really hard, which is chatting to your partner about money. I don't think anyone goes into a relationship and is like, yeah, it's really easy. We like sat down, we talked it out, and we were on the same page. That like very rarely happens. In my own case, I still remember exactly where I was when I talked to my now husband about money. And it was not a straightforward conversation. It was like, I asked him how much he made, and he was like, that's private. And I was like, this is my entire job. Like, what do you mean it's private? And he was like, I've grown up where we don't talk about our salaries. It's not important. It doesn't always lead to good things. And therefore, I'd like to keep it private. And that was really interesting because I share my salary with the world. Like, I'm so forthcoming. And I had to understand where he was coming from. What has worked really well for us and what I've seen has worked for other couples is sitting down together and making sure that you have the same goals and making sure that you can work towards those goals. So some questions that I like to ask was, what is something that you've dreamed of owning together? Should we catch up regularly to talk about our money? What are your biggest financial worries as a couple? Like, are you scared that it will all go away? Are you scared that we won't reach our dreams? Are you scared that you won't get your dream car? Like, what does that look like? And how do you feel about risk? I think about my parents' relationship where I guess my mum was the original investy bestie because she would say things to my dad like, we should buy a rental property. So and so have a rental property. We should invest. So and so invest. And my dad was just too scared because from his perspective, he grew up with not a lot whatsoever. He's genuinely grew up from what's considered the poverty line, if you like look in today's terms, within India, and did really well for himself by moving out, coming to New Zealand, and having like a middle class lifestyle. And my parents only had their one home. They never bought a rental property. They never invested outside of their retirement funds. Specifically for my dad, it was just too scary. So he was like the handbrake in the relationship. He wouldn't commit to doing something like that. And I feel like watching that made me the complete opposite, where I'm like, let's take a risk, let's buy things. Like, I sometimes don't compute that this is like a large transaction. I'm buying a home or I'm buying a rental property or I'm, putting money into shares. For me, I'm like, if I don't take that risk, it's going to negatively impact me down the line in the way that I've seen it negatively impact my parents because they weren't able to build wealth outside of their primary home and their 9-to-5 jobs. And so as a result, it's so important to like have those conversations with your partner and to feel like you're a team. And this might be like a little bit nerdy, but at this point, you know me. You know what I'm about on this page. Like, you know what I'm here for. I am here to be so extra with money. And so my husband and I made a diagram. Like, we got this big A3 piece of paper and we got like Sharpies out. I'm a brainstormer. I want to visualize it. So we said, what does life look like when we're 40? And then we made 4 different categories. And from memory, it was like health, lifestyle, career, relationship, and family. And then you ask yourselves, like, these are really hard questions, but it's so important to talk it out. Do you want kids? Yes or no? Do you want to live in a home or do you want to live in an apartment? Do you want to rent? Do you want to stay in the city that you're in? Is there somewhere else you want to move? What do your careers look like? What kind of giving back do you want to do? Do you want to help family? Is it important for you to help your siblings? Like, what does it all look like? And getting really clear on those goals and having those conversations, in my opinion, is actually really fun because there might be things that you assumed both you and your partner wanted to do, but maybe it was only something you wanted to do. And then when you talked it out, they're like, oh, that actually wasn't on my radar, but yeah, I'm so down for that. And vice versa. And so by doing that, you can also start to kind of see if there are any red flags, because as you're talking about what you want to achieve, where things are going, how things look, I feel like 2 things happen. Again, this is like a very heteronormative episode where I'm assuming like your partner is a guy, or I'm assuming like those kind of things all line up. I can only really speak on my own experience and like what I have seen around me. But what I have found is if you do this kind of exercise, it tends to weed out people that don't see themselves living a life with you over 10 years. And the answers are like, oh, I don't know, like, I'll see, we'll figure it out. I'm okay. Why do we need it? And you're like, do you not want to be with me? I am not saying like do this on a 3rd date and then be like, do you see yourself with me in 10 years? Yes or no? No, go away. Yes, like let's keep chatting. That's not what I'm saying. But maybe you've been together for a while and you're ready to have that conversation. That's when these kind of goal-based conversations are actually really helpful. Another thing that I've found is when you have these kind of goal-based conversations, you can start to weed out if someone is being secretive or if they're being controlling. Are they being secretive about their money that they have, their income, their inheritances, the debt that they have? Do they have like a gambling problem, or are they taking way too many risks and not really committing to something? You're going to be able to figure that out. Another thing is, are they controlling? Are they the kind of partner that wants to take over the finances and be like, honey, don't worry about it, I got it? I feel like in 2026, that can feel like such a luxury to be like, oh, I can just relax and I don't have to worry and like my guy's got it. But in all honesty, it's fun to have a good partner that you can rely on. But so many times, more times than not, we see the negative impact of relying too much on your partner to take care of the finances. Like, you should still have access to all the accounts. You should still have like a monthly check-in. Like, if your partner is the person managing the finances, then your partner should still be the person that like gives you a quarterly report on your finances. They are the CFO of the family, sure, but I want to know what income came in, what income went out, how much are our investments doing? Do we have investments? Do we have savings, funds? Like, what does that look like? And if they're like, I'm not doing that, then you go, okay, that's fine then. I still want to be involved. I want to know where things are. If God forbid, like touch wood, something happens to you, I need to know the bank accounts. I need to know the passwords. I need to know where everything is. And I do not want to find a secret account with like hidden debt or a secret account with like hidden cash. So fess up now, buddy, because this is the relationship that we're going into here. But the reason why I want to really focus on having a conversation about goals is because when two people are on the same page about a goal, the alignment just like adds up. It's kind of like when you work in a team at a job, or if you're like part of a sports team. If your goal as a team in like a netball game or a soccer game is to get points, then everything that everyone is doing is to align to that goal. The ball gets moved down the court. I can't believe I'm doing sports analogies. Like, who am I? This is because I had a tennis lesson yesterday. This is really what it is. But you all have the same goal and then you work to achieve it. If you don't have the same goals as partners, even if that goal is as simple as we just want to build our emergency fund together, or we just want to save up to be able to buy a home together or to buy a rental together, by having that goal, you're aligning and working towards it. And suddenly it gets a lot easier to have discussions of like, hey, I've noticed that you are buying lunch all the time at work. I get that you want to do that, but it's not really helping us reach that goal of buying our first home. Like, we both really need to like put our heads down and do this together. And that's a lot easier of a conversation to have than, hey, you're spending a lot eating out at work and I just don't like that. And I'm trying to save and we're trying to save. And without a goal, it just feels like, well, I'd rather just eat out. Like, I'd rather just have like a nice meal. So what's the issue there? Like, you just end up gridlocking. Now, the other part of having a goal, which makes life so much easier, is when you and your partner then can make a budget off the back of these goals. I highly recommend using like a budget planner, which accounts for every single dollar, where you can plug in your money, they can plug in their money, and then you figure out, okay, we both make like $80,000 a year or $100,000 a year. We have a $200,000 family income. That's crazy. Where does all that money go? How much do we have left over? What is our savings rate? Da, da, da. And so income and budget planner is actually a really great free way to do that. We've had 50,000 people reply to one Instagram story to download it, and we've kept it free. If you just go to friendsthatinvest.com, you can have it. It's like literally the first thing you'll see, and you can just take it. And sitting down with a person, I've done this with my husband, and it was so helpful for us to go, okay, you make this much, I make this much. Yes, I got his income in the end. Yes, I did it before we got married. We sit down, we put in our salaries, and then we go, okay, rent is this much, or the mortgage is this much. We're going to account this much for spending, this much for saving. You really like clothes and shoes. I really like eating out, to be honest, and like jewelry. Like, let's just figure out and travel. How do we make this work? How do we make our budget work? And how do we essentially reach the same goal? And by figuring out the goal first, you can then work backwards. And it's just so much of an easier conversation to be like, do you need like $100 haircuts? Can we get them down to $50? Because this is our goal and we want to, buy our first commercial property together. And therefore, to do that, I kind of need both of us to reel it in. And it makes it a lot easier. Now, the most commonly asked question about money in couples that I get is, Sim, what do I do to structure my bank account and my partner's bank account? Should we put it all together? Should we have it separate? Like, what's the right answer? And it's kind of an annoying answer that I'm going to give you, which is that there's no best way to do it, because two people could be very, very different. Like the couple that makes the exact same amount of money, I knew a couple that were both optometrists. So their salaries were almost identical and they worked at the same company. So their salaries should be identical. Like in their case, it would be so much easier for them to just have one bank account, their income comes into that bank account, and then it goes from there. In another relationship that I've seen, one partner is a high income earner, the other partner is like a freelancer. And in their case, they are married. So, for the stability of both of them, they also have it all together. On the flip side, I've met couples where there's a huge disparity in income, or they're just newly dating and they don't really want to like put things together. And so, there's no right or wrong way, but here are some of the ways that you can structure it. The first is to do a proportional split where you have your bank account, their bank account, and based on your proportionate salaries, you put some money into the joint account for expenses. Let's say you make $100,000 a year, they're still in grad school, and they make $20,000 a year. You're probably not going to ask your partner that's in grad school to pay 50-50, and so maybe it's 70-30 or 80-20, and you split it that way. Another way of doing it is by having all of your money in one joint account, like I shared earlier. It's a very common way of doing it. Your income comes in, their income comes in, all your expenses go out of that account. And it's really good at keeping things clean and simple, and you can kind of track everything. But the feeling of financial independence really like goes out the window. And on top of that, you're also unable to like have a separate account with some cash as a just in case. And if you're doing it, then you become part of the 42% of people that are hiding money from their partners. So pros and cons for it. And also like, if you want to buy them a gift or surprise them and then you kind of can't because they see the spending and where the money's going. So that makes it a little bit harder as well. Now, the third option, and probably my favorite option that I always recommend for people, is to have two separate accounts, your account where your income comes in, your partner's account where their income comes in, and then having a joint account for all the bills that you share. So food, utilities, like water, whatever it is, gifts that you get for each other's families, just putting that all together, figuring out like, hey, it probably costs us like, I don't know, $1,000 to live together. And so let's just put in 500 each or proportionately split it based on incomes if our incomes are drastically different. And then by doing it that way, you still maintain the independence. And right now, my husband and I do that, but to still feel like a team and be on the same page, we track our net worth as a family. And so my husband and I have like, oh God, we sound really annoying, but we had our own net worth trackers when we first met. And then as an act of love, we joined our network trackers. So every single month, like he sees what is in my savings account, I see what is in his savings account, and we see what was in our joint savings account. And then the same for our investment portfolios, property, private shares, the cost of our car and things like that. And so that all comes together, debt. And so we still have a very clear picture on what each other is doing, but then overall as a unit, we like have it all together. And to be honest, you can change things as you go along. Like it doesn't have to be set in stone. So this is what works for us right now. We've been married for like, oh my God, what has it been, like 2 months? But maybe down the track, we decide, you know what, for simplicity, we want to actually combine everything. And we've spoken about that. Also, if you have children, that definitely makes it harder to have things separate. And if we were to have kids, it'd just be easier to put it all together, in my opinion. But those will be conversations that we'll have later down the track. I don't think there is a right way of doing it. I don't think there is a wrong way of doing it. I just think communicating between you and your partner is so important. And just because I've done it this way doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. Like I promise you, as long as you are both communicating and you're on the same page, that's the best way in my personal opinion. Now, I kind of want to move along and talk about handling the serious stuff, handling things when things get hard in relationships when it comes to money. And it is so vital. It would not be an episode about money if I did not speak about prenups. Prenups are important. Prenups are literally just rules that you and your partner set for yourselves to say, hey, what do we want to protect going into this partnership? What do we want to separate if we leave this partnership? And what do we want to give each other if that was to happen? And I don't think that getting a prenup is a bad thing, in the same way that I don't think getting health insurance is a bad thing. Why would you get insurance to cover cancer if you thought you were going to get cancer? That is what it sounds like when someone says, why would you get a prenup? Do you think you're going to break up? No, we're not going to break up. But just in the same way that you don't know what could happen, it's important to get a prenuptial agreement. In New Zealand, we call them contracting out agreements. Prenups are very different around the world. Like in Australia, they're not as easily enforceable, but in the States, with different, like literally state by state, it's slightly different. So you definitely want to get a lawyer, talk to a professional with prenups. And surprise, surprise, if you are someone that has gotten married already, or you're already in a de facto relationship, did you know you can still get a prenup? It's just called a postnup. Like you literally can still set up the exact same things. You don't have to be like, oh, I should have done it before I was married. Damn it. Like, oh, I can't believe it. I've messed up. That does not matter. That is not important. It is so normal and so possible to get a postnuptial agreement, which is something that you do when you're married. And in all honesty, it's probably nice to do it when you're like in a good space in your marriage and you're like, hey, like you're happy, I'm happy, let's talk it out. Let's get, a lawyer each, let's figure it out, let's sign this. And it is so helpful because you can put in clauses that protect you, protect them, protect your inheritance if you might get it, or if one of you goes, hey, like my parents can help us with a deposit from the home that we're buying. It protects that money that the parents have put in, and that money goes back to the parents, and then the rest of the house is split 50-50. Like there's just ways to make sure you are looked after and they are looked after. It helps you both, and I just really see the benefit of it. I really, 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 really do. I cannot stress it enough. And then there's also a few other like kind of uncomfortable but important adult things that you should do as a couple, like getting a will individually, having it written out, putting it in a safe place, like make a Notion page of like where your prenup is kept, your will is kept, your health insurance documents are kept. And on that topic, make sure that you talk about, should we get life insurance? Should we get income protection insurance? Should we get mortgage insurance? And what does that look like? Like, if God forbid something happens to me, are you going to be taken care of? Is the house going to be taken care of? Are our kids or future kids going to be taken care of? It's not like a fun, cute conversation to have. And I'll be honest, it's not really like going to put anyone in a good mood, but it is really important to have. If you do not have these conversations, sometimes life happens and you're going to be in such a harder position, or they're going to be in such a harder position than if you just had an uncomfortable conversation that literally could take 15 minutes. Another thing that is so important to discuss is who are the beneficiaries of your will, of your estate, of your insurance. I mean, I have heard of horror stories where like someone has lost their loved one and they weren't a beneficiary on the life insurance policy because it was just something they didn't realize and it was an oversight. And so they didn't actually get to claim the life insurance, which would have really helped with like paying down the mortgage and all the other expenses that they had. And so again, none of this is like exciting, fun conversations to have with a partner. But if you can sit down and understand why they are the way they are, if you can understand the goals that you have, that they have, and to get on the same page, you can make sure there's no serious red flags, and that you can understand those really hard conversations, but you have them, or you put a plan in place and you put into your calendar, like, let's sort our will this week, let's sort out our life insurance this week, let's sort out our home and health insurance and all these things that are important for us, or our prenuptial agreement. Those conversations can save you so much headache and so much money lost down the track that I highly, 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 highly recommend it. And so if you've enjoyed this episode, please let me know what you think. If you can do one thing for me, take a screenshot, put it on your Instagram story, tag Friends That Invest. It is the best way for us to grow the podcast, for us to reach more people, because literally, what more can I ask for than more women learning about how to be better with money? So with that, I'll see you next week.